welcome to Copenhagen Airport. We were at gate A12, and it looks like we've got an airplane and a really nice jetway, and it's almost time to do a flight plan. And since we're flying Scandinavian Airlines, I would expect the possibility of a couple of sassy comments, perhaps. Maybe that would happen. That'll happen. Hey, welcome to the channel. Welcome if you are new. I'm a day late on getting this done. Yesterday was one of those days where just literally nothing was working out. So thank you for putting up with a day late here. And thank you for putting up with the SAS or the sassy joke. We'll probably deal with that a few times. Welcome to the channel. Welcome if you're new. This is the Spy Flight on YouTube. Normally we're over on Twitch doing group flights, live streaming, but once a week I like to come over here and do a complete flight plan and do a complete what we call a cold and dark flight. And so today we are at Copenhagen. We're off to Helsinki in the Fenix A320. Like I said, a full cold and dark flight plan using Navigraph, SimBrief, Volanta, also SkyVector. I'll use that just a little bit. And complete flight planning so you can kind of follow along and do some flight planning of your own. I'll mention something about what I call the Navigraph stack of charts. We'll also start preparing for Cross the Pond and do something with fuel monitoring. I also like to talk a little bit about taxiing like a pro and how short hops are really good to get practiced up so you can have really nice landings. If this is your first time, this is one of those, stop the video, load up your sim, and fly along with me here so you can match my button pushes and learn how to fly these increasingly complex airplanes. After you do this flight, I also like to say a little something about in a couple of days or so, do the flight from your own hometown airport with the airplane. It just helps you remember a couple of the things that we're doing here. And finally, one of the things I do is I like to look right in the camera and say I am not a airline pilot. I have a private pilot's license. I've been flight simming for decades, live streaming for a little over 5 years now. This is not about the absolute right way versus the absolute wrong way. This is how I make the simulator work for me, and maybe it's something that will make the simulator work for you. Enough of all of those things. Let's go ahead and start doing the flight planning stuff. And one of the things is these jetways are actually getting really pretty cool. We're also using GSX here. You can also kind of walk aboard the airplane too. They're starting to line up pretty good with the doorways, which I think is pretty awesome. And you can see the Fenix cabin's all nice and clear. And this is one of those airplanes where you can go ahead and open up the cockpit door and come on in and just start doing stuff. I think my camera's a little bit wild today. But anyway, this is the cockpit of the A320, one of the coolest airplanes out there. This is the Fenix A320, and yeah, this is probably one of the most complete airplanes I've ever experienced in flight sim. Let's go on and just flip a few buttons on here. We're going to go and turn on the battery system right now. I'm going to turn on the external power. So these three things are going on at the moment. Let's also turn on navigation and logo lights. Today's the 28th day of the month, so I'll use nav and logo light system number 2. There's 2 of them. We'll also be refueling the airplane, so we're going to turn on no smoking. And that's really about all we're going to do for the moment. The airplane will do its power up thing, so we can kind of go and do what the pilots are doing back in the secret pilot office and stuff. And one of the first things I really like to do is just take a look at my route, and nothing is better than that than SkyVector for a fast look at your route. Link in the description below. We're going to be down here in Copenhagen, where if you put your mouse pointer over it, it will give you the latest METAR and weather. So we've got winds 300 at 9, gusting to 19. Few clouds here and there. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. We can also go over here and check the arrival weather. This is just a really valuable tool, and I like using this one. So this is a really great way also with Cross the Pond coming up to do a quick check of your Cross the Pond flight plan and get a general idea of how far you're going to go and how long it's going to take. But to get all this done, we need to go into SimBrief. We're going to start with the flight plan here. SimBrief, there's 2 parts of it. This is the free part. There's also a payware part, and I'll let you know exactly when we move into the payware zone. Click the dispatch button, and so this is SimBrief that's going to pop up, and we are going to create a new flight plan. Now, part of this is your Navigraph data. some of the nav data is payware. So if you don't have that, it'll be some older nav data. But if you're just getting started, this is going to work fine. Our airline today is SAS Scandinavian. I'm flying with my usual flight number 441, and we are at EKCH. We're going to EFHK, so Copenhagen to Helsinki. The two ways to find your aircraft, I have a bunch of airframes that I've saved. So you can come down here, and we're going to be in the Fenix A320 flying for Scandinavian Airlines, and that's going to put some information in there. I'm going to clear out the cost index and go with automatic cost index. Let SimBrief go ahead and assign that for me. I use the Lido style, the default style of charts. This is an Airbus, so we need to go from pounds to kilograms. So that's another thing to do too. It's an hour and 50 minutes gate to gate. It's already chosen 22 right at runway 15. And I have found that since the latest upgrade with SimBrief, that it's choosing some really good runways for departures and arrivals. So at this point in time, we really don't need to do a bunch of stuff except hit generate the flight plan. So let's go ahead and do that. And here comes the flight plan, and all of this is looking good. Scandinavian 441, there's the route. This is release number 1. I like to make sure that I have the proper units, kgs versus pounds, depending upon the airplane. And the next thing I'm going to do is hit view the PDF. And then I'm going to hit the save button here and save this to a place on my desktop. Where's the desktop? There it is. And let's do active plan and say yes. And I'm just going to save that over there. And at this point in time, if we were on VATSIM, we'd file on VATSIM. But we're going to drag that out of the way. Let's go ahead and open that PDF file and have a look at it. And that looks like it's correct, the correct flight plan. So the next thing to do is build what I call the stack of charts. And the stack of charts is this thing over here. Here's Navigraph. Now we're in the payware zone for Navigraph. And we're going to go to flights and import a flight from SimBrief. And then we're going to grab the top one, which is usually your flight, and it's going to go get your route of flight. And there it is. It's also going to do a little runway analysis for you as far as winds are concerned, which is nice to look at. But we're going to go over here and go and grab our charts. Now, back in the old days when pilots used paper charts, they would stack them up in the order that you need them. The top one's first one you need, and So this is, we don't stack them up and down. The stack shows up down here. And yes, you can indeed sync the, have these charts automatically sync up for you. I generally like to do this because it's also a good time to go and have a look at your departure and your arrival. So parking stands, we're going to need those first, and we are at gate Alpha 12. Good, we got that. Airport, we are going to save that, and I'm hitting the little thumbtack here, and you can see they're slowly appearing at the bottom. And SimBrief's got us going off, I believe, on 22 right, so that's good too. Our SID, what are we doing as far as that? Our departure is going to be Keymax 5 Charlie. So one of the cool things you can do is hit the SID chart and just go ahead and hit 5C. And that will really cut down the number of SIDs and stars you have to look at. In this case, there's our departure. It's the Keymax 5 Charlie. First thing I'm going to look at, is there an initial climb clearance? Yes, flight level 70. Next thing, do we have any speed restrictions? Not really, but we're not going to want to speed up too much as we do a little loop-de-loop here and go the other way. But that's pretty good. So yeah, we just had a chance to review the departure. Let's go back to airports, and we're going to go to EFHK, go to charts, and over here we're going to be doing the Diva 3 mic. Okay, it's called Divam, but I call it the Diva 3 mic. So let's just go ahead and do it like we did before, 3M, and there it is, Diva 3 mic right at the top. We'll hit the thumbtack, and so we'll come in at Diva above flight level 100. We got a speed reduction at Pexon. We're going to continue on here, and we loop-de-loop up here, and then up at this area we continue on north of the airport, have to be above 2,000 feet and 220 knots, and this is going to be one of those vectors arrivals. So there's Diva 3 mic, we've already got that set. Our approach, SimBrief has suggested runway 15. So clear out the search box, And there's the ILS for runway 15. Click the thumbtack. Aha, now you know why we're going up around the airport. And we have options to come in at Ubupu and Elkan. Yes, some of the combinations of words and letters and things for checkpoints in the sky are really hard to pronounce. Platform altitudes here are going to be 2,000 feet, and the decision height is 363 feet. There's our ILS. We've hit the thumbtack for taxi. Come on down here. We'll need the airport. We will also need parking stands, and now our stack of charts is pretty much complete. So with all of that done, there's my stack of charts that I need in the order that I need them. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom on in really, really tight, because this is where you get to see the really awesome taxi charts that we have here in Navigraph. And so it shows your gate, it shows our taxi route. It really is a pretty awesome new map, and I've really been enjoying using this. Okay, so here's our flight plan. This is good to go here. Let's slide this over here. If you possibly can, I do suggest running Flight Simulator 2 monitors, your main sim, and then at least one more to put your charts and everything else on. You could also run it on an iPad if you've got Wi-Fi and an iPad. A lot of these have options for that. Last thing the pilot's going to do before we head down the sim jetway is we're going to launch Volanta. Volanta is what I'm using for my flight monitoring and logging and all that other good stuff. And let's go ahead and plan a flight. And it says, where are we? Copenhagen Airport. Let's go down here a little bit, and we're going to add the flight plan. And there's from SimBrief. And let's see, let's go ahead and just cancel that out. And so here it is. There's Copenhagen. There is our flight. Looks like we got a little snow coming in up here at Helsinki. And this is it. This is all you got to do. Now, I have to have you, I have to do what's called refresh the overlays. So I have to go to the big cam for a second. This basically, if you're recording video, you have to change a scene to get the overlay, and that puts your Volanta overlay data up. So if you are live streaming or recording video and you want people to have flight data who are watching, that's how you do that. Okay, pilots are done with this. It is time to go and start doing airplane things. So welcome back to the cockpit. The pilots have come in, found the ground crew has turned on the basic power buttons here. They probably have also plugged in the air conditioning. And so what we'll do is go to our electronic flight bag. There's two ways to get into it. You can remember the combination, which is 0000, 4 zeros, or just take your little finger pointer here and put it over the fingerprint, and you're in. That's as easy as it is. Let's go to Pilot Brief, and we're going to download the current flight plan. And this is going to go and make a connection with SimBrief over the internet and import the SimBrief flight plan. And there it is. That's our flight plan. Let's cancel out of this, go to Fenix, and let's come on in over here and tap to import. One of the things that I'm really jazzed about when it comes to the electronic flight bag here is this was coded by a real-world pilot, a real-world Airbus pilot who is flying for a major airline. So I got a feeling that this is kind of what they're using. This is a interesting look into the real world. It isn't the exact match of this person's airline, but this is really pretty awesome. Let's go to ground services. Now we do have ground power already plugged in. We've already got the door open, a jetway in place, so everything is good there. Mass and balance. We'll look over here and just compare a few things. Our planned passengers is 154. 2.05 is our cargo, and our planned fuel is 7731. Best thing to do, come over here, 7731. This is our block fuel, so the correct data is popped in there. Go to page 3, 154, 2.3. These two numbers match those two numbers right there, pretty good. The 2.3 on cargo is a little more than that. That's well within, we don't have to worry about stuff. So all of this is good. Airplane is set and ready to go. The pilots are settling in, and it's time to go and start putting some stuff into the airplane. This is one of those airplanes where flight management, the computers are separate. They both work really well. So we're going to start with the co-pilot side, and we're going to start using the ATSU system, Air Traffic Services Unit, and we'll click that. And our option is ATC or AOC. We're going to use AOC, Airline Operations Control. Let's click that. We're going to go to Flight Init, Initialize Data, and we're going to do a Initialize Data Request. This is going to go out to SimBrief and get your flight plan. And it takes a few seconds for it to go and do that. And it says we are Scandinavian 441, and all of this looks great. Outstanding. So we're going to come back over here. We could also request some weather data. Well, let's go ahead and just do received messages. Look at this. It's already got our load sheet in there. Already got the load sheet ready to go. So with that, now let's come on down here and we're going to come over to the pilot side. And this time we're going to use the flight management computer. And we're going to check nav data, March 23rd through April 23rd. 23rd through the 19th. So that's good. We have current nav data. That looks great. I'm going to tilt down just a bit. And we're going to clear this. And it says GPS primary. You're just not going to be nice to me, are you? All right, we'll do it this way. Okay, that's perfect. So GPS primary is lost. We're going to clear that too. Let's do init, initialization on this side, and we have to request the flight plan again. And so this is going to go and do that. And while that's going, you get to have a drink of your coffee. By the way, if you do a lot of flight simming and stuff, can I please suggest a mug that is heated for your coffee? I mean, we're sitting in the sim cockpit for a while. It really is nice. Okay, we got that done. So guess what? It's time to come in. I've gone and made sure it's the from airport is our current airport. So that's Copenhagen. Now we're going to look up here and we're going to go and do IRs, the navigation. So we're going to go do IR number 1. And ADIRS number 1, fault light and on battery light can go on. We'll watch those. Now number 2, fault light on battery. And then when they go out, we'll do number 3. And number 3, fault on battery. That's working. Fire checks. Let's go ahead and hit the test button. And it beeps and flashes, and that's a good thing. So we're good to go there. We'll do engine number 2. And it beeps and flashes. How about the APU? All right, the fire checks are good. The next thing we can do is come up here and I'm going to do ground control for the flight recorder. That records you while you're on the ground in case you hit the wrong button and hit the self-destruct button or something. Crew supply of oxygen, we're going to turn that on now. And there's also a knob over here to turn the cargo heat. I turn it up to about mid-range just in case somebody brought their dog back there or something. Okay, now with that done, we can come on in here and the airplane is knows generally where it is. So let's do IRS init. First of all, we can clear this. IRS init, and I usually say align on reference point. That's our current point in on the planet, and it does the starts the alignment for us there. SAS Scandinavian Flight 441. We're going to click that one. Cost index. Well, we did get that, but that's going to be on page 1 of the flight plan, and SimBrief says the cost index should be 23. So 23. If we were on VATSIM right now, this is where I would stop and get a clearance in case ATC is going to change my cruise altitude. And they're probably not today, so flight level 370. So 370. And that can go there. Now we're going to go and do the winds and request the winds. And we have to wait a little bit. It's going to go out and get our wind for climb, cruise, and descend. And that just helps the computer better plan your climb and your descent so that you're not wasting gas and not wasting money. And you get up and down as quickly and as easily as possible. If you want, you could review the winds. So there is descent winds. And so all of that information is just right in there. Airplane is indeed coming to life. We do have ventilation in the airplane. We've done our initial power-ups and everything else. It's now time to go ahead and load the plane. So let's go and do load aircraft. And I'm going to say fast. I usually do 9 minutes. And we do have a load sheet already aboard the airplane, so we don't need to resend or anything like that. And if you go outside, you can see that now all of a sudden the cargo doors have been opened. And if you were using GSX for loading passengers, you could start the animation of loading passengers. It doesn't actually affect the weight and balance of your airplane, but that's just something you can do. Okay, so it's time to start doing the rest of our flight plan. So actually we could do what I call the init page, B page, and this one we need both of these both of the FMCs. So we're on the main init page. See the arrow down here? You can see that up here in the upper right hand corner there's arrows that go either way. So let's go ahead and go to the right. This is page B, and it says 0 fuel weight and center of gravity. And our 0 fuel weight for today's flight is supposed to be 58.5. So 58.5. You could also verify that with your flight plan. If you look on your flight plan, our 0 fuel weight is here, 58.5. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then go to page 2 over here on our load sheet display. And that's going to give us our 0 fuel weight center of gravity, which is 31.3. So do the little slash and do 31.3. And that goes in there. Now then, we're going to stop the process right now. Let the airplane continue to align. So the IRSs are continuing to align up here. You could also go ahead and let's see here. So let's look at the status here. And there is the status for IR number 1. And the number is 4. As though if those numbers are going down, then that means the alignment is going according to plan. So our status is pretty good. The alignment is proceeding normally. We're about 10 minutes from departure. So in Europe, you start your APU about 10 minutes before departure to reduce pollution, save fuel. So we'll open up the, turn on the master switch and start up the APU. And if you want, you can come on back here and look around. You'll see a little flap opening here, and the APU will slowly start in the tail of the airplane. And you'll even hear it. The sounds are pretty good. It takes a second or two. I hear an APU. By the way, we're flying real weather, real time. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Until we get up into Helsinki, then it looks like we got a low pressure system and some snow over there. So the weather outside might be somewhat frightful on arrival. And now we've got a nice APU. Let's see, while we're waiting for a few things, we could go and set some things up here. Like, let's go over here and remember what our top cleared altitude was. Initial climb clearance is flight level 70, so 7,000 feet. Let's pop that in there. What about weather? There are several ways to get the weather. You can get it out of the airplane. You can also get it here in airports and go to your departure airport and do weather. And there's the METAR. The altimeter is 1022. How about that? So 1022 over there. And we have to set the co-pilots. You can bind these two together. It doesn't take that much time. So I just set them all. So there is 1022. Our altimeters are all set. And the airplane continues to come to life. Part of what I'm doing is I'm doing a little bit of waiting here. I'm waiting for everything to align. So we're still waiting for the alignment to be done. And if we want to see how we're doing, IR number 1 is now down to a 2. So how about number 3? That's a 2. That's a 2. Yeah, we're almost aligned, which is good news. APU is up and running. Let's turn on the APU bleed. And at this point, we could also disconnect from ground power. Passengers should be loading. We're getting ready to push back. We're going to make this a fast flight. 93 of our passengers are coming aboard. The fueling is done. The baggage is almost loaded, so we're just waiting for our last few passengers to come aboard here. And I'm waiting for the last little bit of the alignment to take place. And now it's TTN1. Time to alignment, I'm guessing. Time to navigation. So 1 minute, I'm guessing, and we will be ready to do some more buttons here. Like I said, this airplane is just such a great airplane. One of the things I also like to do is do the integrated lighting. I think one of the most colorful things in any kind of aviation is the A320's throttle area. I mean, it looks really good at night. So one thing to do is I also like to just move these controls around a little bit. Make sure that the stick is moving. Go ahead and turn the nose wheel steering. I usually do these before I power on the airplane. Today's a little different. Move the rudder pedals. Just make sure that all of your USB connections have been made, which is a good thing to do. And TTN1, it's got to be getting close here, folks. It's got to be getting close here. And so what we'll do is we'll see all of this change. And once this changes, we can continue doing a few things. What's going on down here? We could also make sure our squawk code is set. Yep, squawk is pretty good. All of a sudden, the radio, everything changes. Look at that. So now all of a sudden, the GPS primary is set. And now we can go to another cool little test here. So this is over on the fuel planning side. And so what we'll do is we grab the flight plan and look at your alternate fuel. We have to get the decimal point thing on this one. So here's the alternate fuel. It's 2413. We just need the first two numbers and put a decimal point. So 2.4. So we're going to go 2.4. And we're going to put it into alternate fuel. And now hit the fuel planning button. If it turns green, your fuel is good to get you to the airport you're going to. Now, it has also put some other data in here from the flight plan. What I will do is come up here and look at the actual fuel we have on board, which is 7.7. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in instead. 7.7. And there we go. Flight plan. Well, let's see here. We know from our flight plan that we are going to be departing on 22 right. So let's go ahead and grab the departure. And 22 right is our departure runway. We are going to be doing the Kemax 5 Charlie, Kema 5 Charlie, there it is. And let's insert that. EFHK, we also know what we're going to be doing coming in. Now, I always like to plug this in. We may get a change by ATC when we come in because weather changes and stuff. So does traffic flow. But for now, we know it's ILS runway 15. And it's going to be the Diva 3 mic. And there's no transition here, but let's see if we get a VIA. No VIAs are available either, so let's just plug that in. So here's our departure, and now we're just going to page through, and we're going to look to see, is there any route discontinuities? Right now I'm expecting one between the end of the star and the beginning of the ILS. There's Diva. There we are on the 3 mic. Life looks good. There's the little racetrack. Then there's Sutax. And then there is a deceleration. And then there's Elkun and Abupu or whatever. Anyway, I don't do that one well, do I? Okay, so the flight plan's looking pretty good here. So all of that is great. How's our passenger loading going? Passengers are aboard. Isn't that great? Let's go ahead and dismiss this. This airplane will also close all your doors and retract the jetway. While that's going on, let's go into departure performance. And this is a really cool little performance computer. I like this a lot. So let's go ahead, and we know that we're going to depart off of runway 22 right. So 22 right. It's dry here in Copenhagen. So now we're going to sync the final load sheet. We're going to look over here. Flaps will be optimum. We're not going to force toga. Anti-ice is off. Packs are going to be on. And now let's sync our current weather. If we were going to be doing an intersection departure, we could go and plug that in right now. Let's just use the full length of the runway. And now we hit calculate. And there we go. Here's all of our numbers. We're going to be doing flaps 2. The trim's down 0.3. So come on down here and do performance. Flaps 2. Do a slash down for our trim 0.3. And put that in there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come and do our flex temperature, 68 degrees. We are flexing to 68 degrees, saving a little bit of gas. Let's come on up here, and we're going to do 152, 152, and 156 for speeds. 152, V1, 152, rotate, 156 is V2. All of that looks good. Now then, this is also going to give us thrust reduction and acceleration. This is for noise abatement, among other things, and it's 1,020 feet across the board. So 1020 for thrust reduction and 1020 for acceleration. And we'll do the same thing, 1020, in case we lose an engine. And all that looks good. Let's accept the old load sheet. Let's come back in here, and we will expect the final load sheet in just a few minutes. All right, passengers are aboard, doors are closed, seatbelts going on. We can also arm the emergency exit lights. Those are good to go too. We've disconnected from ground power, so we're also going to go ahead, and this is when I usually will turn on my fuel pumps. So we've got those in there too. We're done with this page. Let's go to the Fenix app and ground services. And we still have a ground power unit connected. Look over here and make sure you've turned it off before you disconnect. Otherwise, things get messy. The airplane gets a little cranky with you. Basically, you're unplugging a live circuit where there's a lot of electric juice in there. So we don't want to shock anybody. Chocks and cones. Next thing to do is look over here and take a look at the parking brake. The parking brake is on, so I'm going to get rid of my chocks and cones. And now we can go and let's get a little help from GSX, and we're going to prepare for pushback and departure. Do you want to request pushback? Yes. Do you want ice warnings? No, let's not do ice warnings today.
Due to icing conditions, please stand by for engine start until push completed and brake set.
Well, okay, thank you so much. And one of the things that I do like to suggest is, if at all possible, go online.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Hello, we're ready to be pushed back. Thank you so much. And if you look over here, there is our crew chief. If you have a chance, go online and do a Google search for A320 space checklist space PDF. This will give you some sort of an A320 checklist that you can print. I think, so, wrap it in plastic like this and have it sitting on your table.
Check completed.
Really is a nice thing to do. So before start checklist, cockpit prep is done. Gear pins and covers are aboard. Passenger signs are on. ADIRS is set. Fuel quantity is set to 7.7. That is correct. Takeoff data is set. The barrel reference is set. Windows and doors are closed. Beacon is going on now. We're getting ready to push. Thrust levers are at
locking gear.
Idle. Thrust gears are idle. And parking brake is on. We're good for pushback. Absolutely really like having a real-world checklist sitting there because it works with these airplanes. And if we want to go outside and look down here, you can see everything's good. So, quick edit. Standard push, Y 0 facing east, facing west. Let's see. This is where we can come over here. And what does it say? Y 0 facing east. I think it's this one facing east. I think that's what we want. Yankee 0 facing east.
Release parking brakes.
I say parking brakes are released.
Commencing push. Due to icing conditions, Please stand by for engine start until push completed and brake set.
There's our push. Always nice to go and have a look outside the airplane too. And then I also like to have this on moving map. So this should put us on the Yankee taxiway, which is right here, Yankee 0, and we'll be facing east. So if we're facing east, that means we're all set to taxi down here via Alpha, Charlie, Alpha 1, and blast off on runway 22 right. So that's what we got going on for that. And then our departure's all set too. So that's what we got there. And again, because it's icing is a possible problem, we just have to wait to start engines. Doesn't take too long on this airplane though. And I do suggest, you know, if you can, have a couple of wing views set up, be able to go and have a look at some of these things, especially if you're an airplane geek, which if you are doing flight sim, you probably are a bit of an airplane geek. So it's so nice to be able to look at some of these things. And one of the things I really like about GSX is
waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
Okay, so that means we're clear to start engines, so we can come down here. I use the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus stuff, so I can use the controls on that, and it looks really good. Make sure we have pneumatic pressure going to the engines, and we're going to start engine number 1. You can tell the start process has started because this little box on the N2 becomes gray. It's got a little gray box around it. The numbers are going up. The other thing the real pilots are going to keep a close eye on is oil, quantity, and PSI. You know, if these numbers start going down, it means you've got an oil leak, and that means you're having a bad day. And we don't want to have bad days. So while the airplane is starting up here, we can have another sip of coffee. Morning coffee and a morning flight. Look at this, our load sheets arrived. So while this is going in, let's go back to init, and let's go to page B. Our current zero fuel weight is 58.5. Oh, look at this, we have 2 new passengers. So our new zero fuel weight is 58.4. 58.4. Hit the slash button. Page 2, did our zero fuel weight center of gravity 31.9? It did. 31.9. Change those 2. There's the final load sheet. Back to performance. And we don't have to worry about a change in performance numbers because we did the performance calculations with the final load sheet, which was already in the electronic flight bag. Okay, we have got a good start on engine number 2. Let's do a little 1-engine taxi, save some more gas. So we're going to go ahead and get the starter back to normal. We're going to come up here and I'm going to hit the electric pump on the yellow system, so we have brake pressure. I'm going to go and turn on the cross bleed for air, and we're going to turn off the APU bleed because the APU bleed will suck exhaust from the engine in, and that gives the passengers a headache, and we don't want to do that. So let's go to GSX and say confirm good engine start.
We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
And after you do that, then click the GSX button one more time, and that will turn that off. And you can see down here, we're getting a good engine start. We have 1 engine going, and they're going to go and clear everything out here. And our airplane's great. And we can, now, if we weren't doing 1-engine taxi, we could do the after start checklist, but we still have some things to do.
Unlocking gear.
So all of this looks good over here. Nothing to worry about really up there at the moment. Let's go ahead and turn constraints on for our departure in case we have any of those. We should have also been squawking mode Charlie on the taxiway, even though we're not on VATSIM.
Disconnected.
I like to do that.
Removed.
And we'll also turn that on too.
Left is clear, right is clear.
Okay, left is clear, right is clear. There goes our pushback tug, and we are out of the gate. And not bad. Looking over here, the current time on the airplane, it is 12:47 Zulu. if you look on page 3, we were supposed to be out by 12:45 was out. We're supposed to be off at 13:05. So we're actually a little bit early. Schedules have got to sound kind of ridiculous to you. Up there is our salute and release from guidance. And after they wave, we are now clear for taxi. So come on up here. We're going to do the light. And we're going to go and put our feet on the rudder pedals. If you've got them, and toe brakes on, parking brake off, release the toe brakes, and out we go. I was saying, schedule stuff might sound a little ridiculous to you, you know, but here's the deal about about flight simming. When it comes to a flight like, when it comes to cross the pond, you're going to get a departure slot time, and it's important that you hit your slot time. And out we go. So long. Now it's a 1-engine taxi, so you may have to steer a little bit with the nose wheel steering. And there we go. So let's see, our taxiway, we're going to go down to taxiway Alpha. That is Mike. We want to do Alpha to cross runway 12. And ATC would be telling us to do this. And this is going to set us all up for setting us. So there's Alpha down there. So Alpha is what we want. ATC, of course, would be telling us what to do on all this if we were on VATSIM. Oops. And if we look over here, Yankee Alpha, this is our turn. Now we might get a hold short of runway 12, 12, but we're going to go ahead and clear ourselves to cross. So I mentioned turning on the yellow fuel, the yellow hydraulic pump for brakes. There's a little gauge in the airplane down here. It's right over here. It's the brake accumulator, and that has to be in the little green zone like this. And so that's why I turned this on, because the right engine is what pressurizes your brake system. And if you don't have that switch on, you might not have enough brake pressure. We're about 3 minutes from takeoff here. So as we slowly coast across the runway here, we could also turn this off now. There's pressure. Let's turn the APU bleed back on. Let's come down here, turn the starter system back on, and we're going to go ahead and start engine number 2. Engine number 2 starting on up there as we get closer to the runway. I'm also kind of monitoring our progress here over on the Navigraph moving map. Now, I use the desktop application for this because I live stream, and when I want to show something on live stream, this is the way I do this. The thing is you don't have to do that. If you're not live streaming or doing YouTube videos, you could actually put Navigraph maps up here like the real pilots would do and have that just right in there. And we're getting a good start on engine number 2. There's engine 2. And let's go ahead, and we're done with the cross bleed. We are done with the APU bleed, and we are done with the APU. Let's look down here, and the engines are looking good. We're going to do flight controls here. Let's do, where is flight controls? There's elevator, there's aileron. We know the rudder works because we're steering. We're slowly doing pretty good here. Our trim is going to be down 0.3. So it's a small little number here. In a couple of taps, our trim is now set to, and flight controls are now checked and set. It's going to be flaps 2. So let's go ahead and drop our flaps down 2. We could also arm the speed brakes, predictive wind shear, auto brakes are max. And now we can go and do the after start checklist. Anti-ice is not going to be needed. ECAM status is checked and good. Pitch trim is set. Rudder trim is 0. So the rudder trim is a button down here, and you just hit reset. Not so important on your first flight of the day, but maybe your second flight of the day after you've, actually, I think you do it every time, but in the sim, you'll definitely want to do that after your second flight of the day. And we are now ready to go, and we are approaching the hold short point of the runway we're taking off on. And in fact, here is one of our little lineup points. Let's just go ahead and grab that right now. And we'll stop here for just a second. We could also do the before takeoff checklist. So there it is, 22 right. And brakes, that looks good. Parking brake is on. Let's go ahead and do the before start checklist. Flight controls are checked and set. Flight instruments are checked. The briefing has been done, but poorly. Flaps, confirm your config. Flaps 2 and 2. We have not hit the takeoff config check test button. Hey, look at that. The ECAM checklist is green now. V1, VR, and flex temperature. They actually want you to look through those and read them. V1 is 152, rotate at 152. V2 is 156, we will flex to 68 degrees. ATC is set down here, and so we are squawking, and we have TCAS, and the ECAM memo is green. Takeoff runway is confirmed. Cabin crew, let's go and ring the bell. Let them know that we're going to be flying. TCAS is on, engine mode's normal, packs are on, it is flying time. So we're going to go ahead and just do the first switch, which is the landing lights coming down out of the bottom of the airplane. We're going to go strobes on because we're going onto an active runway. Parking brake can go off, and it's go time. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. We'll look over there. Is anybody on approach? I don't see anybody. I think we're good. But it's always good to go and have a little look outside the airplane. And out we go here. You can see the flaps are down. The sounds in this airplane are really, really good. It's always fun to watch yourself as you taxi onto the runway from, the cabin view, which is most of the views that, we're all going to see. And if you can taxi and line yourself up from the from the wing view, then you're a really great sim pilot. Now at this point in time, as we're going out, I'm going to go ahead and zoom this map out a little bit. And I think we're almost ready to go. Uh-oh, we slowed down and stopped. Whoops. Keep going, airplane. I probably put a little bit of pressure on a toe brake, and that stopped us. Okay, last thing we do when you're lined up on the runway, landing lights on and throttles up. I usually run them to about a little under that halfway mark there. Look down, are they both stable? They are. And then do manual flex. Read SRS and runway, those are both on. Auto thrust is blue, that means it's armed and ready to go. And all you have to do is watch down the runway. The one thing I wish we had is airspeed callouts. There's 100 knots. So that you can concentrate on looking down the runway. There is an application outside of this that will give you those, but I just wish the developers would do that. Whoa, V1 and rotate. And I kind of got knocked off because I was looking at my airspeed. That happens. And there we go. And a beautiful day to fly in Copenhagen. I don't think the weather is always this nice. Positive rate of climb, gear going up. There goes our gear. And look at your flight directors, lever climb, so throttles back to thrust climb. Push the nose down a little bit, a little off to the right. And then if you want, especially if you're in a big busy VATSIM event, the sooner you can get the AP on, because you're going to be changing frequencies and you're going to be doing this, doing that, and everything else. So the more that you can go and do those sorts of things, the better. And we're past the F, so flaps 1. There's flaps 1. Waiting for the little S here, and we'll start a turn out over the water. A sip of coffee. I gotta say, the scenery today is actually really pretty good. As I mentioned at the beginning yesterday, just nothing worked out. The weather here was really kind of frightful, so today's a much nicer day to fly out of Copenhagen. There's the letter S, so slats can go up. There goes our leading edge slats. Transition altitude here was 5,000 feet. Chances are the airplane is already beeping at me. It's not. Oh, transition's 5,000 feet here. We should do standard and standard. That must not have gotten set. Most of the time the airplane knows our transition altitude. Oh, that's because we're only at 3,000 feet. I'm an idiot. I should look at that. I figured we had passed that. We usually do. We usually do. Boy. Check your altitude before changing your chances are the airplane is smarter than I am. So there you go. ATC just called. Climb and maintain 17,000 feet, which is usually what you'll get from departure control. Now it's flashing at me because the airplane is smarter than the pilot. And now we got that set. After takeoff checklist, landing gear is up, flaps are up, packs are on, barrel reference has been set. After takeoff checklist is done. I will tell you that these checklist things, especially on Cross the Pond, an event like that, is really going to make your day a lot nicer. And the reason that I say that is you're going to be doing a whole lot of extra things that you normally never do. Even if you're a, steely-eyed flight simmer on VATSIM with thousands of hours, you're going to be busier than usual. And so if you've got a checklist and you can go through it while you're doing that flying thing, that's just going to give you a little bit of peace of mind and say, you know what, I got the airplane stuff done. And that just makes your life so much better. Our speed is good. We're going around the departure just fine. Passing 8,500. Passenger views are outstanding. Man, what a nice day. I don't think I would want to leave Copenhagen today. I think I'd probably stay. It looks like it's a great day to be here. And passing 9,000 feet, almost 10,000 feet. Landing lights off, nose lights off, cabin call, 10,000 feet. Everything else is perfect. More great views. I'll sometimes turn these down just a little bit. Some of them start to blaze just a bit, so turning them down sometimes one click makes it a little easier to see the flight directors. Passing 10,000 feet, our speed's going up like a good airplane. I'm going to go and widen out the map and go to airports. It's very flat and low here. Technically, though, I should have also had terrain radar on. I guess I kind of find terrain radar a little bit annoying unless we're coming into an area where there's a lot of mountains. Now what we could do is we could turn on terrain radar, which shows the water, and then just turn it back down. I think the general rule is one pilot has to have terrain radar turned on, the other pilot has to have weather radar turned on. Ground spoilers, let's go ahead and turn ground spoilers off. Oh, look at this. I did not turn off my ignition for after we started engine number 2. Should have checked that. No wonder I had a hard time doing the control checks. It was being bratty, and there was a reason, because I didn't know what I was doing. Seat belts, no smoking, everything else is perfect. And if we look out the window, there should be the airport. There's the airport. I think that this was the Fly Tampa scenery package for Copenhagen, and I think it's a really nice scenery package. So a payware from Fly Tampa, anything that Fly Tampa does is really going to be a fabulous scenery package. And so out we go from there. And just a really nice flight. ATC is called. We are now cleared to go to our final cruising altitude, which today is flight level 370. So up and away. Flight level 370. Always expect them to move you along, especially in an event like Cross the Pond. If there's a gap in airplanes ahead of you, count on them saying direct to maybe 2 or 3 checkpoints down the road, because they're going to try and move you up a little bit faster. Cross the Pond is one of those events where we jam the simulated skies with more airplanes than are usually in the real world skies. All of this is looking really good. Let's come on over here, and this is when I'm going to go and put the flight plan over here, and I'm going to leave this over in performance. We are 500 miles away from Helsinki. We are 111 miles to flight level 370. We should hit our final cruise at 1319 Zulu, so it's 1304 Zulu. Now, if this is your first flight with me doing this, one of the things that I will do is, as we are approaching cruising altitude, one of the things that I will do is stop the recording, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me yap about mindless things that, while we're just doing cruise. So what the deal is eventually when we get into cruise, we're going to get a distance to top of descent. When we get to about 50 miles from top of descent, that's when I'm going to start the recording again. So if you're flying with me, when you get to 50 miles from top of descent, you should start the YouTube video again. And then we kind of continue to fly from there. Because seriously, at this point, all we're going to do is look out the window. I'll tell really bad jokes. I mean, that's just, no fun there. So our climb is actually going really pretty good at the moment. This will be a good time also to say things like, if you like the video, likes really do help. I'm new here on YouTube. Thanks for helping me grow the channel here on YouTube. If you feel like sharing it with friends, letting people know, hey, we're doing these complete flights, that you can fly along with, I'd sure appreciate the help as I grow that. I'm now doing full-time content creation online. I'm just getting started, so the struggle is real, and any support that you want to show is going to be really, really appreciated. Come on over and fly with us on Twitch. We fly every day. 1900 Zulu is our normal departure time, Tuesday through Sunday. Going to be taking a couple of Tuesdays off here and there, but mostly it's 6 days a week. It's a great group of friends who just like airplanes, like to hang out, and you're always welcome to come and join. I've also started a Patreon page, and I'm doing some more advanced flight briefings over there for each day's Twitch flight. That's something I do first thing in the morning, and that'd be a great way also to help me as I continue to grow the business. I've actually gone full-time with turning this into a small business. It has been a great adventure. It has also literally saved me from having to go and close down my apartment and move into a homeless shelter. So we've all had the tough economic times, so this is how I'm surviving it, and your help is the only way I can do it. So thank you. And enough of that pitch as we approach 25,000 feet. So my general thing that I do is if there is turbulence or something like that, I will leave the seatbelt sign on. But as we approach 25,000 feet, if it's nice and smooth, then I'm going to go ahead and at 25,000, we're going to go and do seatbelts off. I'm sure that there is a passenger back there that ordered the Venti instead of the Grande, and they've had too much coffee and they're going, I need to go. So, yes, I was that passenger once in my life. Trust me, you only need to learn that lesson once. One of the things that I will also be doing is I will also be looking at the fuel prediction button here. And this is a big thing that you're going to need to do in Cross the Pond. So let's talk a little Cross the Pond before we hit the pause button. Your fuel prediction, and in various airplanes you're going to get what's called your prediction at landing. And when we land in Helsinki, the computers are predicting that our estimated fuel on board will be 4.0. So over here, if you look at this number here on your flight plan, FinRes plus Alton. So final reserve and alternate fuel is going to be, should be, put the decimal point in 3.4. Final reserve and alternate fuel are a combination of contingency, there we go, contingency, alternate, and final reserve, okay? So if you add those three numbers up, you're going to get this number here. And so unless ATC gives you a hold or a diversion or a turn 10 degrees right for 5 minutes, that kind of releases you from this as a hard number that you're supposed to have in your tanks when you land. So 3.4 is my magic number as far as landing fuel. Right now I am at 4.0. Now if you're in an older Airbus like the A310, which is what I'm flying on Cross the Pond, you really, really, really need to be at your optimum flight level or close to it. Otherwise, you start burning fuel, extra fuel that you shouldn't do that. So you have to pay attention to those step climbs. But one of the things that I'm going to look at is the EFOB, estimated fuel on board. And I'll be doing that several times during the flight to make sure that I got enough gas to make it. There's one number that I did not check that is kind of like mission critical before you depart. And unless you want to hear a golf joke, it's the tee-off fuel or takeoff fuel. This is what you need to have in your fuel tanks before you start rolling down the runway. And this is why on Cross the Pond, you're going to want to board a lot of extra fuel for takeoff. For taxi and holding for takeoff, you're going to want to board extra contingency fuel, final reserve fuel. You're definitely going to want to add a lot of time to that in Cross the Pond because you will get a delay on departure. You will probably have to set up a hold. You will probably not get to taxi immediately to your gate. I have been, in the old days in X-Plane, I boarded in the MD-11 from Rotate, 3 hours of extra fuel for the last Cross the Pond I did in that airplane. So takeoff fuel, what you do is you know that in your head it's 7.5. Now we're already at 6.2, but we've already taken off. So before you push those throttles forward, if you have a second, look at your fuel on board, remind yourself of takeoff fuel, and make sure you got enough fuel to make it. What do you do if you don't have enough fuel to make it? Okay, you got several choices. One, you can contact ATC and say we don't have enough fuel, we need to taxi back to the gate. That is going to take a long time. And in Cross the Pond, that's not the thing to do. I think in Cross the Pond, what you do is take off, and then when you get away from congested areas, come on up here, hit the little weight and balance thing in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and do what we call mid-air refueling. Add a little bit of fuel back in. That's the best thing that you can do at that time. Otherwise, if you miss your departure slot, you're probably on the ground for another hour. Really, I mean, there's so many airplanes. So That's the thing to do. At least that's my advice. It's a little bit of a cheating thing, but in cross the pond, okay, that's an okay thing, I'm gonna say. So our climb is going pretty good. We're going to flight level 370. We are currently expected to land in Helsinki at 14:18 Zulu time. It is now 13:13, so we have an hour and 5 minutes of flying time. Now you know why it is that I was yapping about hitting the pause button on the record. You hit the pause button on play, and we're going to get together 50 miles from top of descent. 50 miles. This is when I get to go over to the spy galley, and it's actually kind of early here, so it's time to make breakfast. And so I enjoy a nice breakfast here and do the cruise flight, and then we'll land in Helsinki a little bit later on. It's a great time also to look around and enjoy the scenery. The scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator is nothing short of stunning. And I'll tell the Flight Simulator versus real world scenery story a little bit later on. Until then, see you 50 miles from top of descent. And welcome back to flight level 370. Airplane's still doing pretty good, it looks like. Let's go ahead and check fuel. We should be getting close to that special number there. Hang on just a second. And there we go. I think we've got all the buttons set up correctly. Hello and welcome back. Let's see where we are here. First of all, we are 67 miles from top of descent, so we're relatively close on this one. That's good. Fuel. We are estimated to have 4.3 kgs, kilograms of fuel aboard. So 4.3 tons, I think that's the way we say it. So 4.3 tons is what we've got. Remember, according to the flight plan, we were supposed to have 3.4. So we have almost a whole extra ton of fuel. So we're in great shape. Aha, look at this. Enter destination data. There's several ways to get this. We can get our destination data out of Navigraph, which is really pretty cool. You can go to information about the airport and weather. And this one happened at 13:20 Zulu. So if we look up at the airplane clock, it is 13:48. So this is pretty current. Why don't we go ahead and do nav data? So we'll come on in here. And we'll go to descent phase and landing phase. The altimeter is 1008. The temperature is a whopping 1 degree. Oh, didn't get the 8 in there. 1008, and be sure you click it. There we go. Now then, let's go ahead and put in that 01 degree. And that looks good. And winds right now are 160 at 160 at 09. Looks good. I think our current choice of runways of runway 15 is probably just fine. So let's go ahead and plan on that. We can check that by going over here to the flights page. And this gets some of the weather, and you can see the wind is down the runway at about 9 knots. So this is a good choice for our runway. So as we come over here, we're done with this. This is a point in time where I do like to go and start getting rid of charts. We are clearly not going back to Copenhagen, so I'm going to get rid of those charts. And so now we have the arrival, and our arrival is above 2,000 feet at Sutax. And then the final plunge altitude, also known as platform altitude, is 2,000 feet. Minimums are 363 feet. Let's go and put that in. So 363. And that goes into the barrel box. Come on back to performance. 47 miles from top of descent. Let's see, you may notice if you look up here, my seatbelt sign is on. We've actually had a couple of, it was a little bit bouncy in part of the flight. So if you come back into the cabin and have a look at your passenger information panel, you see seatbelt lights are on. This airplane does model both no smoking and seatbelts. And if you look really, really carefully, you'll notice that all of the rows, the seat rows, are correctly numbered in this airplane. The attention to detail is just absolutely amazing to me. The top of descent hockey stick is now showing up. Hockey stick is a term that I first heard when reading one of Captain Mike Ray's books. Captain Ray does a series of books available online. The Flight Simulator Check Ride Manual. They're very good books. They're meant for real-world pilots, but they're great for flight simmers too. And when Captain Ray did the book about Airbuses, Captain Ray's a Boeing captain, but called the top of descent indicator here the hockey stick. So we call those the top of descent hockey sticks. And if we were on VATSIM, ATC would have called by now and told us that we are cleared to descend on the Diva 3 Mike arrival. They might have been really cool and told us that we are landing on runway 15, but the Diva 5 Mike arrival. And so there we go. That would tell us that we could go down to 2,000 feet. So we're going to dial in 2,000. I don't usually change this number until ATC says that I am cleared to descend to a specific altitude or cleared to descend on a certain arrival. The minute that they tell me that I'm clear, even if it's descent at pilot's discretion, I don't change this number until ATC tells me it's cool. Even if I pass top of descent, hey, they haven't cleared me down there, so I'm going to be a good pilot and not put that number in until it's actually time for me to do that. The turbulence has kind of gone down a little bit, so I'm going to do seatbelts off for about 10-15 minutes because we did have them on for a good portion of the flight today. After I hit the pause button, if you look here, pretty much all of this trip over water, we were getting bounced about quite a bit. So most of all of this, the seatbelt sign has been on, but I do want to get it off for a little bit here, simply because we're going to have passengers who need to go. So we're going to go and do that. Everything else is, I think, pretty well set. We've got the approach data in. It's just a matter of waiting for 24 miles. And then since it's cleared to descend at pilot's discretion, that means we get to hit the descent button as soon as we want. Now, if you're in VATSIM, they may want you to do that sooner rather than later. We're going to make a nice, gentle descent here. Chances are on something like a VATSIM cross the pond event, they're going to take you down as they need you to go down. So you may not get to do a smooth by the numbers descent on something like cross the pond. Over here, like I said, you can go to Navigraph and you can run Navigraph. It's really pretty cool to have it in this. So you can import the route from SimBrief. I really like this. This is absolutely outstanding. So we can come into EFHK and then we can go and do the arrival and the approach. So here's our approach, and we know we're doing the, arrival first, so we can get the Diva 3M. So there is Diva 4 Bravo. Now it's a little harder. I don't believe that we've got a search on this one yet. So Diva 4 Romeo, And I think you have to actually grab this and move this down. Rope 'em, Diva. So Diva 3 mic, that's it. So you could hit the star. Now we can go up here and we can collapse this down. And now our approach is going to be runway 15. We can hit the star there. We can crunch that down, and now we can do ground charts, and we can come over here. There's a whole lot of briefing charts. We're going to look for airports. I believe this is it here. Let's just check and see. Yeah, there's the airport chart. So we'll grab that, and we'll grab parking stands, and all of those look really good. So now that we've got those, we can come over here and we'll crunch this down too. Then we can come back here, and all that looks good. Now you can go over here and hit the route button, and it will load a little map for you and show you where you are, which is actually pretty cool too. Again, I don't use this much simply because I don't use this because I usually have the application over so I can drag it on and drag it off as I need it. So we can go back now here to EFHK. And let's see, reference, ground, departure, arrival, approach, starred. And now you've got these all set up. Now, one of the things that it doesn't seem to do is put it in the order that I had it in. So I really like the other thing that I can do is over here on the desktop app, I can put these in the order that I want them in. Trust me, eliminating little things like that. Captain Ray in Captain Ray's book talks about how it is that they have things called distractors when they're testing you. And a distraction is, uh-oh, we missed our top of descent, hit the button, had a feeling. We may need to do, yeah, we missed it. We're going to probably need some speed brake. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of speed brake here and see if we can catch up with our deviation. So one of the things that happens in a real world flight simulator check ride that the real pilots have to go through is they will throw a whole lot of failures at you at the same time and just distract the socks off of you to see how you're going to handle the pressure of all of these things. And Mike Ray calls, you know, you're coming up on a critical phase of flight, and they might, the check ride instructor might give you a light bulb failure or something like that as a distractor. So what I was mentioning about over here is, see, these things are not in order. Because they're not in the order that I need them, that's a bit of a distractor, as opposed to when I need my chart, I can just go and click it just like that, and it's right. It's less of a distraction. It smooths out the workflow. Uh-oh, and I was distracted talking about that. Let's put speed brakes away. Another rule that Captain Ray talks about, if you've got the Thrustmaster TCA Airbus Captain's Pack, you know, the one that's got not just the throttles, but the flap lever and also the speed brake lever. So Captain Ray suggests, especially on approach, if you have to use your speed brakes, if at all possible, if you've actually got a lever set, then keep your hand on the speed brake handle. Use it as long as you've got your speed brakes out. He says keep your hand on there so you don't forget that you've left your speed brakes out while you're busy doing a half a dozen other things and you forgot on the approach, oh, speed brakes are out. That would explain why my landing speeds are all whacked up. So Captain Ray says when you need your speed brakes on approach, if you can, keep your hand on that lever until you're done with them, if at all possible. That way you'll remember to put the speed brakes down while you're on your approach. Okay, we are coming on in here. Time to switch from airports to constraints. So we'll see if there's any. We have to be above flight level 100 at Diva and 250 knots at Pexen. And there is our approach over there, and all of that looks good. Another quick look over here at fuel prediction. You really can't look at it enough, especially on across the pond. We're 4.4. We got plenty of fuel. We don't have to worry. We can go around. We can hold. We can divert. So everything is in good shape there. I usually leave the first officer here over on flight plan, and then I keep the captain over here on performance. Coming up on 25,000 feet. 25,000 feet is my seatbelt altitude. So we were able to turn the seatbelt sign off. So anybody that had had too much coffee, they got to take care of that little problem. And as we approach 25,000 feet, it'll be time to do seatbelts. Everything else is in pretty good shape here. Don't need to be arming speed brakes or doing auto brakes or anything like that quite yet. They are checklist items. So since I'm using the checklist today and intend to use them on Cross the Pond for sure in the A310, that way at least I know I'm not going to forget those critical to-do list items. As you're coming in and doing something like Cross the Pond, there is a little thing that you could do. And there's 25,000 feet. Let's do seatbelts. And let me show you this little thing that you could do. So my flight for Cross the Pond that I'm doing is going to be Munich to Chicago. I don't think that there's a direct flight from Munich to Chicago, but let's go over here and let's look at FlightAware. FlightAware is a real-world flight data system. It's like Flight Radar 24. So let's go ahead, and we were at EKCH, Copenhagen, and we are going to EFHK, Helsinki, and hit enter. So we're doing a Scandinavian flight. Here's a Scandinavian flight that just happened. Let's click that Scandinavian flight, and you see it left Terminal 3, and it landed at Helsinki. It did not give me gates. Let's look at this Scandinavian that already happened. Landed at Helsinki. Okay, maybe we need something up here. Well, there aren't that many. Not that many Scandinavian flights today. The whole point of what I was hoping to show, and didn't do a very good job, let's look at Finnair here. Okay, here's a Finnair flight. So, boy, it's not giving me departure and arrival gates today. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. The whole point of what I was trying to say, let's look at this CityJet flight and see if it's, yeah, okay, it's not giving us anything resembling gates today. What about this Finnair flight? Nope, okay. Well, this one did say that in Copenhagen it left gate A9. The whole point is when you're really, really busy, you've just landed, you've just taxied off the runway, okay, and they say contact ground on point, 121.9. All right, you've just done that, and you're going to contact ground, Scandinavian 441 just off of runway 15 at Alpha 2. One of the first things that the ground controller is going to say, welcome to Helsinki, say parking. And what they're doing is giving you the opportunity of telling you what gate do you want to park at. Okay, and it would really help the ground controller if you had an answer. So my whole thing about showing you that really cool website is sometimes it has departure and arrival gates. Sometimes, like today, it doesn't. So if you have a chance, when you've got a little bit of time to look, now I know that this flight, we did the reverse of this flight on the spy flight on Twitch last week. We departed out of gate 19. So I'm going to jot down in my flight notes page. By the way, this is my flight notes page over here. And a version of the flight notes is you'll be able to see that down in the description. So you can copy and paste my flight notes here and put it into your notepad and use them. And one of the things is you can jot that down, and when you switch to ground control, you and they say, what gate do you want to park at? You can say, oh, gate 19. You got an answer right there for them. And so this is several things. First of all, they're going to be able to route your ride over there. Second, you're going to be able to, if you know where you think you want to park here on gate 15, We're going to probably get off at Yankee Foxtrot. We'll come in here at Delta Foxtrot over here, at Delta Yankee Hotel, Yankee Fox, Delta Fox. So it's a right turn on Alpha Delta and a left turn into the gate. Wow, now I've just briefed myself on taxiing. And with a whole lot of other airplanes and a lot of other insanity out there, that's one way that you can kind of plan ahead and make your day just a little bit better. Remember, we're going to be doing this event with record numbers of people signed on to the network. So if you can do that sort of thing, that is just going to make your life so much better. Passing 16,000 feet, let's go ahead and bring the map in a click. And we have caught up with our green dot here. Actually, green dot is this thing that's over here. This is the descent deviation indicator. I think some Airbus pilots call it the donut. Green dot is when it's safe to go and put your flaps out. So there's that speed over there. So we are not being too terribly deviant today. How about that? Our speed is good, right at 250 where it's supposed to be. We're coming on in and all of this looks good. It's going to put us out at 2,000 feet, so that's looking great too. Transition, we can come over here, and of course the airplane was smarter than I was on the departure. So transition here, altitude is 5,000 feet, level is set by ATC. I'm going to guess usually 6,000, 7,000 feet, I think is what they would do. I think the airplane has probably picked 5,000, not sure. We could probably go and look. It might know if we look. Okay, I don't think it wants any more drag right now. Do we have transition over here? Let's see. Prepared on the next phase. Descent, ILS, transition, flight level 5,000. So if it was 7,000, if they changed it, we could change it in there. Okay, so life is good there. So it wants just a little bit of drag because we're a tad bit high. I think the airplane will catch up. Let's go to 20. The real pilots are going to also go over to the radio and navigation page, and they're going to take a look at what the airplane is looking for as far as the ILS. It says HL 109.1. So if we come over here to the arrival, you see HL 109.1. That's a good indicator that the airplane is looking for the correct ILS. Now, in the world of Flight Simulator, I've never had a problem with that. Real pilots, that's one of the many, many, many things that they are going to be verifying on the flight. And really, at this point, we're all set. We're looking pretty good. We'll get down a little bit closer. It's definitely a bit snowier outside here. Definitely snowier and colder today. And I'm going to guess it's not a nice sunny warm day at the beach there either. Okay, we've got an altitude above 2,000 feet there, I believe. The green line that you see here, this is our missed approach. So if we have to go missed, we're good to go there. 11,500, so it's almost time to do landing lights and sterile cockpit. And then at that point in time, we'll run an approach checklist. And then we can run landing checklist. We'll land, we'll taxi to the gate, and another successful sim flight would have happened. No pixels would have been hurt, hopefully. One thing that I've started using, a really nice holiday gift, Christmas gift this year, was the Logitech Flight Simulator radio panel. And as a part of that, I use a new thing called, let's see, where is my SPAD dot next? That's not it. I don't think I engaged it today. Well, that would explain why the radio isn't working. Let's get SPAD dot next here, and I can show you the radio panel. Flight simulator pilots like to have things like the throttles and the rudder pedals and the side stick and the yoke and One of the best little add-ons that I've seen. Oh, it updated today. That's why it is that it wasn't engaged. Oh, there we go. Anyhow, one of the best pieces of hardware that you can get for your simulator cockpit is the Logitech radio panel. I seriously do not know how it is that I got through so many sim flights on VATSIM without this. Now, this is SPAD.next. This is a great way to get a lot of really cool control over your yoke, your side stick, your throttles and stuff. But it also gives you access to this. This is the Logitech, and I'm not sponsored by anybody, so this is what I really think. I really think that this is a great way to control your radios, and especially controlling your radios when it comes to your comm radios in a very, very big, busy event. Wow, is this an important thing to do? Does it make your life easier? So instead of having to switch to 122.8, I've got a knob on the desk here. So there's 122.8. And sometimes on this airplane you have to dial something and then it will go. But 122.8, it just makes your life so much easier. And then you can switch it on over and it becomes your active source. Like I said, I really like it. It's awesome. And we are coming up on 7,000 feet. I was not paying attention, so landing lights, nose light, cabin call, sterile cockpit. At this point, ATC might be a little picky about our speed, so we'll go ahead and we're going to go to 210. So 210 is going to be our speed. That seems to be a standard speed, and we are decelerating. You can see the little down arrow by the airspeed, so that's good news. A couple of puffy little clouds outside. What's the outside temperature outside the airplane? It is -7 degrees. So going through an airplane, going through clouds like that, I think it is time for a really important button, engine anti-ice. Now, right now, the Fenix A320 does not play nicely with Microsoft's icing stuff. So I actually have icing turned off right now for this airplane, but I'm sure they're going to fix that eventually. So one of the things is be ready. You know, I'm still turning on anti-ice even though it's off because it's good to be thinking like that. But and let's see, I'm going to go ahead and take control of my heading now, and we're going to continue our descent. And we got to be Abupu is 2,000 feet. We're at 4. Altimeter reset, and we remember we checked our altimeter earlier, and we put it down in here. So let's go here. This will remind me it's 1008. So 1008 and 1008. I think you got about 30 seconds or 20 to 30 seconds. If you don't switch the co-pilots, it starts beeping at you. And then I also set the backup, 1008. There we go. And that looks good, passing 3,000 feet. I say, let's make a turn, 90 degrees. How about 240 so we can start heading into the airport? Now is also a good time to activate the LS system. Do it on both the pilot and the co-pilot side. And if you have a second, if you've got incredibly good scenery to look at, head on back and do a wing view. I was mentioning before we did the top of climb, top of descent, stop the recording thing, I was going to tell the story about the scenery. There's people that will fly along and they take their camera phones and put them in the window and just record the view outside the window for the whole flight and put it up on YouTube. I'm one of the people that likes watching those. One day I was watching a YouTube flight video like that, and I was watching outside their airplane, and I was looking at it and I thought, wow, that looks just like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And then it, you know, kind of kicked in, my brain kicked in and said, wait a minute, that's the real world. That's how good the scenery is. It's just getting so much better. I'm starting my turn on in. Now, some of the scenery is going to look like a game. It's still going to look a little gamey. But honest, the scenery is just getting better and better. Oh, and we can do a notch of flaps. Flaps 1 plus F. There goes our leading edge slats. And we are coming up here, and let's go ahead and do our turn. I have glide slope and localizer. Let's go ahead and hit the approach button, and we are going to get help from the approach. And there's our turn. I may have missed, nope, we're right on it, it looks like. And about this time, ATC might call and say 180 knots until 5 miles DME. So 180 knots. Approach checklist. Briefing has been done. The ECAM status is checked and good. Seatbelts are on. Barrel reference is set. The MDA is set. Engine mode's going to be normal. That is checked and good. Let's go and do speed brakes are armed. Auto brakes, let's go medium. All of that looks good. We have gear and flaps to do. And flaps 2. There goes flaps 2. And we are coming up on 5 mile finals. So one last click of the map. How about landing gear? Wheels? There's 5 mile finals. Make sure you're in approach mode. If you're in approach mode, you can go back to managed. If you're not in approach mode, it would say you would still be in descent mode, and it would give you the option to click into approach mode down there. And there goes gear. Speed's coming down, flaps are full. And we can do the landing checklist. Cabin crew. Let's advise the cabin crew. Cabin crew is advised. Auto throttle is going to be on. Auto brakes are set. ECAM memo is green. The landing checklist is done. I have the airport. At this point in time, I'm going to remind myself that we are exiting to the right as we're landing, and if I have to, I'll just go over and look at the map. I'm also going to start zooming this map way in so that I can use the moving map over there to help me with my taxi. Over in Twitch, there's a thing that people that are watching can do. They can type in hydrate and stretch and posture check. When it comes to flying like this, this is the posture check time, and the whole idea is to make sure you're sitting up straight. You can put your feet on your rudder pedals if you have them. Reach down, grab your controls, because now it's time to start doing pilot things. And we are all set. The last thing I will do is take a look at the wind gauge here, the wind indicator, and basically look and see, okay, winds are ahead and to the right, and it's a little gusty, so I know that it's going to be blowing me that way. Autopilot's off, and it's going to beep at us a few times, and then we land the airplane. Incredibly cool scenery here today, and this is also another really, really nice payware airport. Both the Copenhagen and the Helsinki airports are really nice.
500.
Little low, and we got blown off to the side a bit. That's going to happen too. Let's get back over here. Looks like we got a cell phone tower off to the left there. Now we're a tad bit high.
Minimum.
Landing. And then just gently kind of come around.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard, 5,
Reverse. I may have bounced. There's 80 knots, there's 60. I think also my auto brakes clicked off when I bounced, so we didn't get much braking there. But we made it. And speed brakes can go down. Flaps, we're gonna pull those up. I think that they do the flaps, well, I've heard two separate things. In some cases, I hear that they suggest pulling the flaps up on the runway, you know, when you have a second to reach over and do that, to keep the snow and the ice from getting kicked up in there. Another thing, though, that I've heard is up here in Sweden and Finland and Norway, is what they will do is leave the flaps out at the gate so that the ground crew can inspect the flaps and inspect the mechanisms in the flaps to make sure there's no ice and no rocks got kicked into there or other stuff. So I think that's, at least that's what I've heard about the different things that you ought to do if there's snow and ice on the ground. Landing lights should go off. Let's also go ahead and do the strobes. We don't need the engine anti-ice anymore. And we can come over here and we'll go ahead and start up the old APU. Although in a lot of European countries now, they don't start the APU. They will turn off the right engine and wait until ground power gets plugged in so that they don't have to turn on the APU, so that they're saving fuel and not polluting. Might need a little bit of extra power here. You have to, generally, I think you wait 3 minutes until after you land before you could start doing a one-engine taxi, because the engine needs to cool down just a little bit. And now we've also got the moving map here, and we're looking for gate 19, so zoom it in a little bit more, going a little bit fast here. There's also a little wind, so it's kind of blowing me off to the side here. And we're looking for gate 19. So we were saying Delta Foxtrot, and so that's going to be this one right here. About 10 knots is what you want. 10 knots for making a hard right turn. And then once you get into the ramp area, it is 10 knots. Again, this is a really, really nice pay-ware airport that you can get. Helsinki's also got that really cool tower in the corner there, which I think is pretty awesome too. Yes, there is Alpha Delta there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 5 jetways down. Yep, there's gate 14. So we can see that number. And now that's probably a little slow. So there we go. And my APU actually didn't pop on. So let's go ahead and do it the right way. Let's turn that off. We're in Helsinki, so we should save a little bit of power here. There is 16. So we're going to need ground power before we shut off the other engine. 17. 18. There is our gate. 19. That looks pretty good. And a nice gentle turn in here. Now it does appear to start, they're starting to add some gate guidance to some of these airports. So I don't know if this is going to work out for us or not. But this is one of those airports where you really do need to make sure that you're lined up with the jetway. So as we come on in here, let's zoom in and see what we see. I don't see anything in the window there. So if you can't see anything like that, then you would just go out here like this and line yourself up that way. Turning off the right engine. And stop. Parking brakes are off. Parking brakes are on, excuse me. We just turned off that engine. Let's go ahead and turn off the nose light. We're going to turn off the beacon. No, well, no, not the beacon. No, we're not going to do that at all. We're waiting for ground power. Now, sometimes ground power doesn't automatically appear until you turn off both engines. So you may need to go into the Fenix app and actually get the GPU. Now we have a GPU, we can turn on external power, and then there goes engine number 1. Engine number 1 is good. Now we'll do seat belts, disarm emergency exit lights, turn off the beacon, we'll do our fuel pumps. And then one of the other things that they'll do is the PCA, I think that's the air system. We'll go to chocks and cones and deboard the airplane. And I think that this will automatically go, and you can see our jetways coming out for us. So there goes our jetway, and once again, success. So the next thing that I usually will do, I can't wait to see how did the landing go. So we're going to go ahead and complete the flight, and then review the flight. And so from here, what we're going to do is zoom in. I'm still new at this. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go and look and see if there's more than one little red dot here. I think that what that means is that you bounced. So maybe I bounced my nose wheel, because I definitely thought I heard a bounce there. But you can see there's the main target. We were a little bit beyond, and my landing rate was a minus 335. Oh, well, I'll take it. And the airplane is deboarding, and everything is right with the world. And that's it. There is a complete flight. I will tell you that I think that the Fenix is probably one of the most complete airplanes that you're going to find in any kind of flight sim. And I'm just so thoroughly impressed with that particular, with this particular airplane. There's really good ones. PMDG, later on today on the Spy Flight on Twitch, flying the Mad Dog. So they're really cool airplanes. I'm also a big fan of the CRJ too. So as always, I love to say this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what works for me, and I seriously hope that this works for you. Makes it possible for you to get one of these big complex jets from the gate out to the runway, take off, cruise, land, and back to the gate like this. I'm still new here, as I mentioned, on YouTube. I read all questions and comments. So if you've got one, I definitely want to hear from you. In the meantime, thank you so much for flying. I hope you are having a great week, and we will see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.